The way he looks at some of them men like, little boy, what are you even doing on my field? Just smushing them in the face. He got a little attitude though. Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and today we're going over my top 24 wide receivers. If you missed 1 through 12, check them out right up here. And then come on back when you're ready for 13 through 24. Number 13, T. Higgins, wide receiver 2 for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's great against man coverage and contested catches. He's a big boy. T. Higgins has had back-to-back 1,000-yard years. He finished as wide receiver 17 last year, and he basically didn't play in 4 games. Yes, it says he played 16, but in 3 of them, he had very minimal snaps, and he basically didn't play almost at all in 2 of them. So if you remove those 4 games, his numbers just look even better. He would have been on pace for almost 100 receptions, 13 plus yards, and 9 touchdowns. Now, I'm not projecting that that's what he's going to get, but he definitely has upside. He's never had 1,100 yards. I think 1,200 is in the realm of possibilities, and so is double-digit touchdowns. And he hasn't had that many. In the last 3 years, he's had 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. If he moves that up to 9, 10, 11, I actually think that he could be a great value. But where he's going right now, I think it's pretty solid. Without Jamar Chase going down, I don't think that T. Higgins will be a clear-cut number 1, but this is a high-powered offense led by a top 5 quarterback. There's a chance Joe Burrow can handle 2 top 12 wide receivers, assuming they stay healthy, which has not happened recently. Number 14, Keenan Allen. When healthy, Keenan Allen is a safe wide receiver. He doesn't have as much upside as the previous wide receivers, but he does have a very safe floor due to his high reception totals. You can pretty much pencil him in for 100 receptions, around 1,150 yards, and 6 touchdowns, which is a very solid floor. He's got great hands. He has A+ in drop rate, A+ in receptions for the last 4 years. He missed almost 9 weeks last year with a grade 2 hamstring strain. But when he came back from weeks 12 to 18, he was wide receiver 4. But Mike, aren't you worried about Quentin Johnston coming in? No, I am not. Quentin Johnston was drafted in the 1st round, and I do think that he's going to get utilized. But I think that he hurts Mike Williams more than he hurts Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is a possession receiver. He's not going crazy far downfield to get the deep catches. That's more of the Mike Williams role. Keenan Allen is going to stay short and get his receptions, to move the chains to get you down the field. I don't think Quentin Johnston's going to hurt that very much. I actually think he may help it because he'll take the top off the defense. Give Keenan Allen a little more space to play. Number 15, Devonta Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles. Finished as wide receiver 10 last year. Very good receiver both against man and zone coverage. There are a few questions when it comes down to his productivity though. Some of his best games were played when Dallas Goedert was out. So on a full year, I do think that his target percentage might go down a little bit, but Jalen Hurts could always take a step forward and throw the ball a little bit more. Last year was a big breakout year for Jalen Hurts, but I do think there's still more in the tank. He was reliant on his legs and he did get banged up. They could be looking for him to throw it maybe a little bit more. That being said, if anything happens to Dallas Goedert or A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith vaults into the top 12. I would like to see him get more involved in the red zone and in the end zone. C- in red zone targets, C in end zone targets. His average depth of target is D+, so he's getting the ball pretty close to the line of scrimmage. I'm curious to see if that changes this year. I'd like him to be more involved in the end zone. The end zone is where you make your money. Touchdowns, baby. Touchdowns. Number 16, we have DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is a beast of a man. If you ever watch him play football, he's just bigger than everybody else. Watching defenders guard him is actually hilarious sometimes. You get some of those little boy moments. Pristine television. The way he looks at some of them men like, little boy, what are you even doing on my field? Just smushing them in the face. He got a little attitude though. DK Metcalf is great at contested catches. Like I said, DK Metcalf is bigger than everybody. When you get in close to the end zone, you look to your biggest guy, and that's DK Metcalf. End zone targets, A+. That is what I'm talking about. When they get in close, where's DK? Right there. Bam. Touchdown. On a positive note, last year, DK Metcalf had a career high in targets and receptions, but a career low in touchdowns with 6. Coming off of back-to-back double-digit touchdown years, I think that DK Metcalf has a solid shot to bounce back this year and get back to 10 touchdowns. If he does get back to 10 touchdowns, you're getting him at a value right now. They did draft the best wide receiver in the draft this year with Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I do think there's a chance his receptions go down a little bit. But I also think that with his touchdowns going up and his receptions going down, should balance itself out. He is still an alpha wide receiver. Number 17, Amari Cooper. Cooper is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 on this team. He's had 1,100 or more yards 3 out of the last 4 years. His end zone targets and touchdowns are both graded at an A. So why do I have him down so low? Well, it's a gamble on Deshaun Watson. Do you think that he bounces back? I think that he gets better. He has a full off season. He's coming in. Week 1 is the guy. I think that he should be pretty solid. Amari Cooper has always been kind of boomer bust, hit or miss. He'll have great weeks and have bad weeks. He'll be good at home, not good on the road. Or is it vice versa? Regardless, Amari Cooper is solid. Number 18, Marquise Brown. With DeAndre Hopkins leaving, Marquise Brown is the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver on this team. From weeks 1 to 6 before DeAndre Hopkins was on the team, Marquise Brown was the number 6 wide receiver in the league. That's not bad, but he did get banged up and missed 5 weeks with a foot fracture. And when he came back, he really wasn't the same. Now, is that because DeAndre Hopkins was there? Is that because he's coming back from injury? Regardless, he was wide receiver 66 after he got back from his injury. Not great. And there is the whole Kyler situation. Kyler Murray got injured and may not start the year. If they're bad and they lose a bunch of games, there's a chance Kyler doesn't come back. Now you have Marquise Brown getting the ball thrown to him by a bunch of nobodies. But if Kyler does come back, I think that Marquise Brown should be a solid value. All that being said, who knows what this offense even looks like this year? Cliff Kingsbury out. In comes Jonathan Gannon. Honestly, I've a little bit of him, but he's a little weird. He's been the defensive coordinator for the Eagles for the last 2 years. So, what does that offense even look like? I don't know, but Marquise Brown is the clear-cut number 1, and regardless of who's throwing him the ball, targets are earned. Marquise Brown had an A- in drop rate and contested catches. That means regardless of how bad the quarterback is, if you get it anywhere in his vicinity, he's going to catch it. Number 19, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is kind of a mystery. What is Calvin Ridley even? He had a year as an amazing receiver back in 2020. Like 90 receptions, 1,300 plus yards, 9 touchdowns. Yeah, that's a great year. But that was 3 years ago. He took some time off in 2021, and then he was suspended all of 2022 for sports gambling. Seriously, what's up with all these football players sports gambling recently? Come on, guys. We need you to stay on the field. It is kind of hypocritical, so I do feel you. Like, the NFL is wild. On the positives, he has probably the best quarterback he's had in his career. Previously, he had an old Matt Ryan. Now he gets Trevor Lawrence, franchise quarterback. I think that he's going to be the number 1 on this team. But Christian Kirk was paid like the number 1, so we're going to see how that turns out in camp. But for right now, I got Calvin Ridley as the number 1 guy. He's going as the 19th wide receiver. Assuming he stays healthy, I think that's the floor of where he would finish. Just know if you're drafting Calvin Ridley, it's kind of a gamble. Pun intended. Number 20, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is a great route runner with good hands. A+ catch percentage. A, contested catches. A, in contested receptions. A+ in yards after catch. I think that Chris Godwin bounces back this year because he's finally healed from his injury. We're over a year removed from his horrific knee injury. He tore both his ACL and MCL December 19th, 2021. He almost played all of 2022, which is very impressive coming back from an injury that fast. But you don't bounce back from an ACL and MCL the first year. Everybody knows it's the second year back that they start to get their bearings underneath them. The Bucs also have the 3rd easiest strength of schedule this year. I like that. I can already hear all of you in the background. But you don't have Tom Brady. The Bucs are gonna suck. I don't think we're gonna suck, but it is gonna be tough without Brady. We do have a terrible division where anything is possible. That being said, it is a huge downgrade going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. But I do think that Mike Evans takes a bigger hit than Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is a deep down the field wide receiver. And he also relies on his touchdowns. Both of those are going to be affected with Tom Brady gone. But if you're Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, you're trying to get the ball out of your hands as fast as possible. So you're probably going to throw it more to the crisp route runner that's running short routes. That's Chris Godwin. So I think that Chris Godwin is going to be peppered with targets because he's going to get open the fastest. And the rookie Kyle Trask or would we consider Baker a veteran at this point? Or Baker Mayfield, you're trying to not turn the ball over and you're trying to get the ball out fast. That is Chris Godwin's specialty. He's got great hands and he does well against contested catches. That's what Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield are going to need. Also, that route running is crisp. That being said, he'll be much better in a PPR league than he would in a standard league. Number 21, Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is a dual threat receiver. He gets it done both on the ground and through the air. He's also dangerous as soon as he gets the ball in his hands. This man is so hard to bring down. A+ in avoided tackles. A+ in yards after catch. Just get it to Deebo Samuel. He'll figure it out. Well, if he's so dominant, Mike, then why is he so low on your list? Great question. There's a few reasons. Number 1, questionable quarterback play. Is it going to be Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy's coming back from injury. Will he be back in time? Will Sam Darnold or Trey Lance step up? I'm not particularly excited about any of them, just to be clear. I think they're all fairly mid quarterbacks. From a passing the ball standpoint, I think Trey Lance would still be great as a fantasy football quarterback, mainly because of his legs, but I'm really not excited about any of their arms. I can't even get a good read on whether or not Deebo's going to be good with Brock Purdy. They only played 3 games together because Deebo Samuel got hurt. But to be honest with you, one of my biggest concerns is all of the mouths that they have to feed. Christian McCaffrey, one of the highest paid running backs in the league, he's going to get the ball. George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league, he's going to get the ball. Brandon Ayuk, an up-and-coming receiver, he's also going to get the ball. And you got to give it to Deebo Samuel. And not to mention all the random people that are going to be getting targets and rushes in this Kyle Shanahan offense. It's a lot of mouths to feed. If you're thinking he's going to get back to his 2021 form, where he had 14 total touchdowns and almost 1,800 yards, I don't foresee that being the case. It's probably going to be pretty solid, just getting into the wide receiver 2 range. Number 22, Jerry Judy. This one was a tough one for me. He finished as wide receiver 21, and over the last 5 games, he was wide receiver 3 in a points per game basis. But weeks 1 through 13, he was wide receiver 43 on a points per game basis. That's pretty bad. So did they just happen to figure it out at the end of the year in the last 5 games? I don't know. On a positive, he's a good target downfield, A- in deep receptions. He dominates man coverage, but there's a lot of factors here. Sean Payton, new head coach, is going to want to run it more, take the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. Russell Wilson, will he bounce back and not be complete and utter garbage like he was last year? Oh, I have faith in you, Russ. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. And them corny commercials. Ugh. Don't even get me started. So on the negatives, he's never had a 1,000-yard season, D- at contested catch rate, and now there's kind of a lot of mouths to feed. Jerry Judy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Marvin Mims, who the Broncos traded up to get as Sean Payton's first draft pick as the coach. That's big. I think Marvin Mims is going to get involved. I say all of that to say this. Jerry Judy has a shot to be in the top 24. I think that he's the most talented wide receiver on that team at the moment, but I'm not particularly confident about it. Wide receiver 23, Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett is literally slept on every year for fantasy football. Last year, he finished 13th. Yeah, you heard me right. Wide receiver 13. And he missed a game. He's had at least 1,000 yards in the last 4 seasons. He's had 8 or more touchdowns in the last 5 seasons. He's been a top 15 wide receiver for the last 5 years. Tyler Lockett gets it done. He's going in the 7th round, and he dominates downfield. A+ in deep touchdowns. A- in deep receptions. He's got great hands. A+ in drop rate. Again, so why is he so low? Well, like I said earlier, the Seahawks drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, aka JSN, and I think he's going to get some work. JSN is probably going to eat into some of Tyler Lockett's targets. But I still think that Tyler Lockett will be very involved, and I think JSN